What's up, everybody? We're back again today with a Q&A push workout on deck, and here's the first question of the day. How long do you think you'll be doing these Q&As? So I have to get a financial return from what I invest into fitness because it's just too damn much. It's just too damn much of my life for too much time for me not to get some sort of a financial return. So I will, as long as I am continuing to pursue some sort of a goal in the bodybuilding world, I will be making content about it and capitalizing on that content to do coaching, to write books, to monetize my YouTube or Reels or whatever it is, because I just spend too much time on this and I'm going to spend too many years of my life on it to not get a financial return. So getting a financial return is a must for me. How to find your talent? I mean, you probably just don't have one. Like, if you live 25 years of life and you have no idea what you're good at and you've never found an area of life that you're naturally better at than other people, it's probably because you just don't have one. I mean, sure, there's exceptions of people who had really tough childhoods and weren't able to try things growing up, but the vast majority of people went to public schools where they had music classes, where they had physical education classes, where they did sports, and they tried out running and jumping against other kids, and they would have found out if they were bigger, faster, stronger, where they did math competitions, where they would have seen in their grades that they were smarter than other kids. So if you haven't found it yet, it's probably because you just don't have one. And most people don't have some sort of special talent. I don't know where this idea comes from that everyone has some unique skill or ability that they can be the best in the world at. Most people cannot be the best in the world at anything. But you don't have to be. All you need to do, instead of worrying about what your special talent is what do you really love to do? And if you just focus on doing what you really love to do, then you can be probably top 1% in the world at that, at least. And then just do whatever you have to do to make enough money to live the life you want. Bro, I mean this in the absolute nicest way possible, but if you want biology class level answers for questions like this, you should really just open a textbook or Google it, because there's an actual scientific author who worked on a paper who will write out a whole paragraph about how this works in very specific biological terms. In a very, very broad overview, here's the brief way that it works. Anabolic androgenic hormones interact with the androgen receptor to influence gene expression. So it's going to increase satellite cell proliferation as well as the tendency to build new muscle tissue. You win a $50,000 prize to build a new gym. How are you going to budget it out? That's not enough money. It's not anywhere near enough money. But I guess to answer the question that I know you want answered, I would be getting probably close to the full Prime line. Especially the Prime cable stack with adjustable resistance curve settings. I don't like their leg press, so I'd probably get a different leg press, and they don't have a good hack squat or a hack squat at all, I don't think. So I'd probably get a Rogers squat or a Cybex hack squat, and then I would want a Smith machine. That's another key item, and I would get a Cybex Smith machine, and then at least one good set of barbells and a power rack with enough weight to load that thing up. I can do 60 kilos for 10 reps on bench press, but I can only do 70 kilos for 1 rep. Any tips? So I'm going to guess that you're not a power lifter and you're just taking really big jumps in weight, which I don't understand. So if you can do 60 kilos for 10 reps, next time do 61 kilos. You go, I don't have plates that small. Buy some plates that small. If not, find the smallest plates that your gym has. They should at least have a 1.25 kilo, the equivalent of a 2.5 pound plate in the US. You should be able to take smaller jumps than 10 kilos at a time. If you can only ever take 10 kilo jumps at a time, you're going to be stuck for a long time. You need to have smaller increments available so you can go up by less weight. Have you ever considered serving in the military? Fuck no. That absolutely no disrespect to anybody who serves, as that's obviously a very honorable path to take. And for some people, it's just a straight up great path to take. You can get your college paid for. You can end up with a pension. If you struggle with directing yourself, having that environment that's structured will help you thrive on a level that you wouldn't be able to create by yourself. But as for me, my number one priority in life is to maintain my personal freedom. That's my biggest allegiance. I would never want to be in a situation where not only do I not get to choose what work to do, I don't get to choose when I do it, and I also don't get to choose where I do it. The military is my absolute worst nightmare. I don't do well taking orders from anybody. I have never in my entire life, and I am over 30 years old, worked even a 40-hour week for somebody else. Can you imagine me in the military? I can't. Does yoga have any impact on lifting? Well, it's going to depend on the type of yoga for one, because some yoga is like restorative. Your heart rate never gets that high. The poses aren't that challenging. And that restorative type of yoga, I forget what it's called, but that probably is a net benefit, if not net neutral. It's going to burn some calories. It's going to provide some added mobility, perhaps reduce injury rates. Then there is other types of yoga that's essentially a full-on fucking workout where you're holding extremely challenging poses, potentially even doing it in heat, like over 100-degree heated room, and those will be a net negative. So totally depends on how much yoga and how hard it is. Thoughts on a goal physique for someone who has average genetics, either naturally or enhanced? You can never look like somebody else, and this is just the wrong attitude to have, because it's just impossible, man. Genetics isn't like this one factor. For example, genetics can be your bone structure, your muscle bellies, your insertions, your propensity to keep body fat off, your propensity to put muscle on. You can't look like somebody else, and you don't have average genetics. You don't have good genetics. You have your exact genetics. So trying to use someone else as an avatar is completely fruitless. For example, let's say somebody is the classical skinny person with very thin bones. They're 6 feet tall, but they have a 6-inch wrist. They might have a very aesthetic shape to them when they put some muscle mass on, but they're never going to be like a thick, strong man looking dude. Here's the bottom line, man. Nobody can tell you what you can accomplish or not accomplish, naturally or enhanced. You have to go out and try. Nobody can tell. Nobody can give you a good goal physique that's realistic, quote unquote. Nobody knows. Nobody knows, man. If you're only doing this so that you can get the final reward of the final form physique, like the only thing that matters to you is what you're going to look like at the very end, just quit. Fucking quit. Go save up for plastic surgery instead so you can pick what you look like. You should do this because it's fun, because you enjoy it, because it's something that adds meaning to your life. You shouldn't be doing this so that you can look a certain way, because you can never control what your physique is fully going to look like. Like 99% of that was decided at birth. All you can really do is make the muscles bigger and smaller. So, you know what? I can't give you a target physique. You have to go try for 10 years and see what happens. Tips on how to make normal gym equipment lengthened biased. You really can't unless it's plate loaded. Then what you can do is sometimes you can change the seat height. So for example, on this seated lateral right here, resistance peaks when the loading peg and the pivot point are at their longest distance away from each other. So when that loading arm, that white loading arm there, is parallel to the ground, that's when resistance peaks. So if you put the seat all the way down, that's gonna happen higher in the range of motion. And if you put the seat all the way up, that's gonna happen lower in the range of motion. On a lot of machines, if you take a step back from the machine and do it with one arm at a time, so that you're starting from further away, that can bring that loading arm closer to the pivot point and make it more lengthened biased. That's very common on hammer strength back equipment. But largely, man, there's not a lot that you can do other than playing with where the movement starts and finishes. How do you celebrate Easter? Well, as an adult, I do not celebrate Easter at all. I mean, I'm not Christian. I don't believe in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. However, growing up, both of my parents were Christians, so we used to do a Sunday service and then an Easter egg hunt. And Easter egg hunts were always a lot of fun. What effect does blasting and cruising for years have on fertility? So if you're blasting and cruising for years, you're going to get complete and total testicular atrophy, which means that your testes will no longer produce motile sperm if you're on for long enough. Yes, there have been plenty of pros that have sired children while on cycle, but usually it wasn't somebody that was blasting and cruising for years. It was somebody that, would fully come off and then get on for contests. So there are some people that have lost their fertility permanently, but usually these are guys like in their late 30s and 40s that might have lost it due to age anyway. It is worth noting that testosterone has actually been trialed as a male contraceptive. In Africa, there were trials off the top of my head lasting 6 to 12 months, and testosterone only had a 50% success rate as a male contraceptive, which is not very successful at all. You might as well just do the pull-up method. That said, I think with modern day medicine, the vast majority of people are going to be able to restore fertility if they come off in enough biological time, meaning if they don't push right up against the limit of when they might have lost their fertility anyway due to the aging process. we currently have medicines and protocols available where I truly believe the vast majority of people can restore their fertility should they happen to lose it while blasting and cruising. And if you blast and cruise for long enough, that's pretty likely. What would you do if you had to wait too long for a machine? Well, you don't want to know what I would do because I would just wait anyway. Like, I would go to the gym at a time that isn't busy. I would move my whole life around to make sure that that didn't happen. So what I would do is completely worthless information to you. But number one, make sure you actually ask to work in. A lot of people will just let you work in if you ask. Yeah, they'll look kind of surprised at first, but a lot of people are going to have a hard time actually saying, no, you can't work in. No. They'll say, I guess. And then, okay, you're working in. It's a little bit awkward, but at least you're working in. And if that still doesn't work, what I would do if you're truly working out at rush hour is have 2 options for every slot on your program. And that way you can treat them interchangeably and at least have PRs to track for both of them in case you have to do switches in your workout. My gym only has 2.5 kilo plates as the smallest increment. Any tips on progressive overload? Yeah, dude, just buy your own fucking plates. Like two 1 kilo plates, right? That's 4.5 pounds. That's probably gonna run you $20 at the most. I know I'm such a right now. I'm dieting. There's things going on pharmacologically that are contributing, and I know I'm a. Listen, if you can't afford $20 for your primary hobby, maybe you shouldn't be going to the gym, and maybe you should be spending that time going to like night school or a trade school or getting a second job so you're not at the point where $20 is making or breaking the fucking bank. If not, you can do all sorts of other ghetto tricks. You can put ankle weights on there. You can put like multiple clips per side. You can literally tie weights to the end of the bar with a string. All else fails, just use double progression across multiple sets. My 2 overhead press movements suddenly stalled and regressed hard, but everything else is progressing well. What gives? Well, I mean, you have a better idea than me. Your training data is right in front of you. I can only guess. If you're only stalling on 2 specific movements, and what do those movements have in common? What muscle groups do those movements have in common? You could have exceeded your maximum recoverable volume on front delts only, and that's why you're still progressing well on chest presses, on tricep movements, etc. But it's hard to get any more specific than that. You could have just been doing a little bit too much volume on your overhead press work, and everything else is fine. So what's likely happened is just what I said. There is some muscle group that's common to both of your overhead press movements that has exceeded its maximum recovery capability in the context of your entire split. The fact that it hasn't happened to any other movements is the main indicator there that it's just one specific muscle that's been overreached. So look into it and see if you can find out why. If I deadlift more than 700 and bench press more than 315 at my next meet, will you take back what you said about me moving up a weight class? No. Why is it that you want to stay in the lighter weight class anyway? It's literally just what I said. Powerlifters are afraid that if they move up, they won't be as good anymore by Dot's formula, even though they're not winning anything important as it is. And no offense, I'm not saying you're not a great lifter. That's not what I'm saying at all. Deadlift is mostly a leverage-based lift. You can have people that have super long arms and great technique that can pull 700 at 145 nowadays, okay, with a sumo and a deadlift bar. And I know you're a sumo puller. So what I'm looking at is your bench press. Outside of a few hyper-mobile freaks who can like do the crazy arch, super wide grip, 2-inch range of motion thing, bench press is a muscle-based lift. And your bench press tells us whether or not you're in the right weight class. I need a 405 plus bench from you, man. Why doesn't Powerlifting to Win have a nice website? And why isn't it well known in the powerlifting community? Well, dude, why don't you have a nice website that's well known in the powerlifting community? It's not that easy to do. That's why. 2, I stopped developing Powerlifting to Win more than 5 years ago. I haven't competed in a powerlifting meet in more than 5 years. So yeah, it's not even on my radar anymore. I'm not looking to update it. I'm not looking to make it a nice website. I'm not looking to make it well known in the powerlifting community. I leave it up mostly because a lot of people say that there's old articles that they like to reread and it helps them. So it's like a community service act for me to leave it up. At this point, it costs me money just to host it. So no, it's not like something that I'm interested in making a big deal in the powerlifting community. I'm not even involved in the powerlifting community anymore. When I row explosively, it makes it feel easier in the mid and short positions, and my performance is better. Is this something I should avoid doing? First of all, it's perfectly acceptable to be explosive on the concentric portion of any movement. What you're running up against here is the fact that most rows have a very strength curve where you have an excess amount of strength in the lengthened compared to the load that you're acting against, and then it's too hard in the mid-range and short. This is why I love the strive pieces with their adjustable resistance curves. That said, if you're not using non-target muscles, so for example, you're not leaning back, you're not recruiting erectors, you're not, using backward torso body English to make it easier through the mid and short, I don't think that's a problem. There's no way that that's going to allow those muscles that are targeted in the short, those upper back muscles, to not get as good of a stimulus. However, if you find yourself just throwing it short and you're short for just a brief second and then you immediately fall out of the short, so you can feel yourself using momentum too much, consider adding a very brief pause in the short to clean that up, and that will usually be all you need. What is your ideal rest day? For me, it would be waking up and having breakfast food, eggs, pancakes, and bacon. Second phase of the day would be a trip to the dog park, preferably on a sunny day. And then mid-afternoon-ish, watch 1 or 2 episodes of whatever show is the current show. And then evening, go to a basketball game. That was my actual rest day setup when I lived in Phoenix, and it was definitely my favorite. These days, I do a lot more working than that, but it just depends on how tired I am. Like, there are some rest days where I almost make it a point to be a slug and not move at all. Besides going on the dog walks for the day, I don't get out of bed except to eat and use the bathroom. And I literally try to lay in bed as much as possible. Not ideal, but it works. What do you believe religiously? Or how to lose all of your followers in 90 seconds? Now, I think I have possibly the most offensive religious belief that there is, which is that it doesn't matter. There could have been an all-powerful being that created the universe, but would that change how I live my life? No. If there isn't an all-powerful being that created the universe, would that change how I live my life? No. So ultimately, I guess the only thing that I'm relatively sure of are that the Abrahamic gods that have specific books with specific falsifiable claims are probably not the truth. Other than that, I have no idea, and I don't even think about it because I don't think it matters. I'm smart enough to know that I am not smart enough to debate the highest level theist philosophers, nor can I stand up to the highest level atheist philosophers. But I feel relatively comfortable in my belief that it doesn't matter what I believe. I think about other things. All right, everybody, you know the drill. It is the end of the video. So if you liked the video, like the video. Any comments or questions, leave them below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Enjoy this cute picture of Kona as a puppy, and have a nice day, friends.